At the end of our last video, we talked a little bit about heartburn, and we learned that heartburn is caused by the effects that a wicked solution inside the stomach called gastric juice, the effect that it has on the esophagus. Let's talk a little bit more about the stomach and about gastric juice. Just as a review, the stomach is still very important for mechanically breaking up food. The reason that your dog or your kid brother can eat a hamburger in 1 or 2 bites without chewing it is largely because of mechanical digestion in the stomach. But the stomach does much more than that. The stomach will mix the food that you've eaten with more liquid and also with hydrochloric acid, not acid, like the real stuff, really hydrochloric acid. I often think someday that when humans meet aliens from another planet, aside from them worrying about us breathing oxygen, they also will be kind of creeped out to know we've got hydrochloric acid in our stomachs. We'll talk a little bit more about that. It's at the stomach that the chemical digestion of protein and fat will start. Now, it's not where chemical digestion starts, right? Because chemical digestion actually started in the mouth, but that was the chemical digestion of carbohydrates, starches primarily. It's in the stomach that we're going to get lipase and protease working on the protein and the fat components of what you ate. When the stomach is done doing what it does with the food that you've eaten, the resulting mixture is kind of like a cream of mushroom soup. And it is highly acidic. It's got a pH of around 2, and it is known as chyme. I do not know why it's pronounced chyme when clearly it looks like chyme, but it's called chyme. Okay. The stomach is not designed to be absorbing nutrients, right? And the reason is that that stuff in the stomach, it's got wicked, dangerous proteins, and it has wicked, dangerous enzymes, and it has this crazy amount of hydrochloric acid. That stuff in the stomach is dangerous. You know, whatever we eat, like if you eat a chunk of steak or something like that, it's not made out of different stuff than what you are. So it's important that we don't let that stuff get out, or else it would digest you. So the stomach, it was just going to be very difficult to engineer a stomach that could keep the bad stuff in and only absorb the good stuff. So the stomach just wasn't created that way. The stomach was designed to hold in this really adverse stuff, this acid and these wicked, powerful enzymes. And so there is not a significant amount of nutrition that gets absorbed from the stomach. Some things get absorbed from the stomach. Aspirin gets absorbed from the stomach. Even water doesn't get absorbed from the stomach very directly. Let's talk a little bit about tissues. Your mouth is lined with stratified squamous epithelium. Your esophagus and most of your stomach is lined with stratified squamous. Why stratified squamous? Stratified squamous is lots and lots of flat cells all stacked up on top of each other. We have stratified squamous in our mouth and in our pharynx and in our esophagus because stratified squamous allows there to be abrasion without like exposing what's underneath. And for the mouth and the esophagus and the pharynx, we do chew and swallow scratchy stuff like a bran muffin or something like that, right? But starting at the stomach, we have got simple columnar epithelium. And the simple columnar epithelium that lines the intestinal tract is super cool for us to look at. Gastric motility. The stomach still is doing a significant amount of mechanical digestion. When you swallow food, there is a reflex that is going to tell your stomach, hey, relax. and allow that food to come in, please. And then once the food is arriving, there's going to be these gentle churns. I want you to imagine that I have given you, I don't know, some mixture for making cookies. There's going to be butter and sugar and flour and whatever in a hefty bag. And it's your job to mix it up, right? You would like squeeze it and squeeze it. That is what your stomach is constantly doing. And those contractions are going to churn things up and mix everything together. And also, by mixing it with the hydrochloric acid, that's not written here, mixing it with the hydrochloric acid, it's going to break down some of the proteins, denature the proteins, break down the walls of the cells, particularly of plant material that you've swallowed. And typically, it's going to take about 4 hours for a meal to get emptied from your stomach. 4 hours. That's just a ballpark. There are some things that we eat that leave much faster than that. If you go to Jamba Juice does not stay in your stomach for 4 hours. Jamba Juice is gone from your stomach pretty fast because, the stomach just does what it needs to do to get it to the point where it's very acidic and mixed up and has the right consistency. So juices that you consume, are going to leave much more quickly. The more green leafy vegetables you eat, the longer it will take for your meal to leave the stomach. But when your meal does leave the stomach, it doesn't go out in a rush. It comes out in little 3 milliliter little spits. Okay, so here's your stomach, and there's your pyloric sphincter, and there are little spits of whatever you ate mixed with acid, this chyme stuff, going into the duodenum through the pyloric sphincter. How much is 3 milliliters? You are probably asking yourself. Well, a measuring teaspoon, as if you are baking cookies, I guess we know what I'm doing during the COVID pandemic, right? But a little teaspoon is 5 milliliters. So that means that entire meal that you ate, let's imagine it was an enormous Thanksgiving dinner. It is going to leave your stomach less than a teaspoonful at a time. And there's a reason why, and I hope I'll remember to tell you when we get there. But this stuff, this chyme that's coming from the stomach into the duodenum, it is super acid, and it's really dangerous to the small intestine. The reason your stomach only spits it out these little less than a teaspoonfuls at a time is because the duodenum, it has special glands in it that are instantly going to put in bicarbonate and change the pH of it so that it doesn't cause the kind of damage to the small intestine that heartburn causes to the esophagus. The pyloric sphincter is going to be in control of this. And remember, your meal is only leaving like a little tiny spit at a time. Here is our stomach, and you probably know by now that this is the lower esophageal sphincter right here. Here is the pyloric sphincter right here. This is the pyloric region, just the area near the pylorus where things kind of go into a funnel shape. These ridges in the stomach are called rugae. The stomach is different from the small intestine in that the muscle in the wall of the small intestine, it just has got 2 layers, but the muscle in the wall of the stomach has got 3 layers. It's got an inner diagonal layer. It's got one extra layer. All right, what's going on inside of the stomach? Well, the first thing I want you to know about is that the stomach has got lots and lots of hydrochloric acid in it. Your body makes hydrochloric acid, throws it in there in your stomach. The pH of what's going on in your stomach is about a pH of 2 or 3. Whenever people say, oh, don't drink soda because it's acid, yeah, there's almost nothing that you can consume that will make your stomach contents more acid because it's crazy acid to start out with. I want you to know for the final exam what hydrochloric acid does. It breaks up connective tissues and plant cell walls. You know, the connective tissue, like the little tendons and ligaments in whatever hamburger meat you're eating, That stuff's made out of protein. That's valuable to us, but it's very difficult for us to digest it. Hydrochloric acid makes some of it more available. Hydrochloric acid also turns the form of iron that's found in your food into a form that the body can use. The iron that's in your food is not at the right oxidation state. And you don't, I'm sorry about this extra detail. You don't have to know ferric to ferrous or 3 plus is ferric and 2 plus is, you don't have to know that. But you do need to know that hydrochloric acid is responsible for taking the iron that's in your food and switching it chemically so that it becomes a form of iron that your body can easily use. When people have got a gastric bypass surgery, they have much less acid in their stomachs than they used to. And one of the problems that it will cause for people who have had gastric bypass is they need additional iron supplementation because they can't digest it very well. Hydrochloric acid also destroys the bacteria and pathogens that we ingest. You know, if you go to any picnic and have some of the potato salad or whatever, you're consuming bacteria. You're probably consuming some bacteria that theoretically are dangerous. And yet, generally, we don't have to worry about dying of food poisoning every time we eat a bacteria. And the reason is because of hydrochloric acid. The reason that that potato salad might become dangerous over the course of a 3-hour picnic is just that the bacteria multiply, and it's a little more likely that 1 or 2 of those guys are going to get through the stomach without having been destroyed by the hydrochloric acid. Also, the hydrochloric acid activates 2 of your digestive enzymes. Which 2 enzymes does it activate? I will write that down. Hydrochloric acid is going to activate. That's not acting right. Okay, I will just type it out anyway. It will activate pepsin and it will activate lingual lipase. You know, most of the time you're expecting proteins, and almost all enzymes are proteins. You're expecting them to get denatured when they get into a crazy acid solution. Pepsin and lingual lipase are 2 enzymes that love a pH of 2. That's what activates them. If you take pepsin and lingual lipase, those are proteins, and you put them at a neutral pH, a pH of 7, you'll denature them at a pH of 7. That's crazy, right? Okay, so make sure you know what hydrochloric acid does, and we will start there at the beginning of the next lecture.